I first met Jim the summer of 2017, not all that long ago, when he was hatching the idea to start a community-wide conference with UTPB as beneficiary, driver, and impetus for sharing and improving on issues in the region. This is the kind of stuff Jim Woodcock does for fun. It's been just 2 years since that first meeting at the College of Business, and honestly, I feel like it's been much longer, but in a good way. I'd like to share a more developed bio on Jim now that you may have seen in this little bio previously. So what I did was hold on just a moment. Sorry about that. So I got some information here on Jim Woodcock that I'm going to read to you. Yes, a little bit. But I will just stick to the script. Many friends and dear family of Jim and Claire's have gathered for this evening's TLF, and we thank them for their travels far and wide. And when I say many, give yourselves a round of applause for making it here. There's a lot of you. Speaking of travels, Jim's career has taken him all over the world, including Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Oman, Yemen, Libya, Angola, Iran, I feel like I should have an accent, Iran, Syria, Egypt, Israel, Venezuela, Argentina, Colombia, Peru, and Brazil. Jim and Claire continue to travel often, and Jim is still involved in many philanthropic ventures, and while he chairs many boards, he is never bored. Remember that I mentioned that I met Jim in 2017, it was June. It was a hot day, as he was putting together a team to develop a new conference. Well, like any leader, Jim led, and develop a conference he did. Jim is now the founder of truly the world's cutting-edge premier water and energy non-commercial conference for the Permian Basin Water and Energy Conference. Through his efforts, it has provided almost $1 million in positive economic impact to the Permian Basin in just 2 years. It has also allowed the conference, which again is a nonprofit, to give just over $110,000 to the school in 10 years. They didn't think they were going to make any money at first. Jim definitely has vision. 2 years, yeah, we're on the third. Jim definitely has vision and a knack for making things happen. Jim is not all business and no play. Still an avid sailor, Jim has sailed throughout the US and in several countries of Europe, South America, and Canada. Proud grandparents, to whom they refer to as the Great Eight. Jim and Claire spend their summers going between their ranch in Colorado and their home in Santa Fe, New Mexico, so they can enjoy the cool summer days with their extended family, friends, and their 8 beautiful grandchildren. During most any day from June to August, and I've witnessed this personally, Jim can be found fishing, elk hunting, shooting basketball with the kiddos, riding ATVs, branding cows, I have the video, or relaxing by playing a round of 2 or tennis. In between all of this, Jim can be found negotiating deals, working on a new project, mentoring a friend, or taking the time to walk his neighbor's dogs. Now, please join me in welcoming the 2019 Outstanding Local Leader Award recipient and friend of many, Jim Woodcock.
Thank you, John. The check will be waiting when I finish here. I wish some of those things were true. My notes are here. I don't have a lot to say. But John had told me I had 3 minutes, so I'm going to turn my phone on. If I go over 3 minutes, she said she has some really tough guys, including representative here. They're going to tear me out. So let me thank some people. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Sandy Woodley, Dr. Woodley, pardon me, President of UTV, for the great job you've done at leading the school. Thank you, Tatum. You do a wonderful job. By the way, stand up a second, will you? Don't just stand. Look at this. Look at the smile. Do you think she ought to apply to be a television announcer? For those of you who don't know her, she spent her first 30 years of life as an anchor of a TV station. Did a wonderful job. And hang on a second. They say some of the things, if you first you lose, I'm not sure. Thank you, the faculty at UTPB, for the great job you do of developing these youngsters, college students, to be future leaders. They need help, they need direction, you give it to them. And thank you, the board of the John Ben Shepherd group, for giving me this great honor. It's very humbling, special honor, and it's much appreciated. Judge, thank you for those great words. I want to remember, if I've ever in front of you, I'm not guilty. But you mentioned one of my favorite authors, Rudyard Kipling, and I really like what he did. I especially like the poem If. There are a couple stanzas that I could, if you don't mind me repeating, saying them along with what you said. One is, and I think it really applies today, represented to our government, if you can keep your head, we're all about you losing theirs and blaming it on you. That makes sense. And the other is, if you can meet triumph and disaster, and look both those imposters in the face, think about those things. So they're important. Another Kipling poem I liked was the Ride of the Lost Brigade. And I remember these words. They were riding hard, and there were rifles to the left, rifles to the right, and there were a rock between. I thought, man, that's exciting. I wish I could ride it. And I thought, hell, I didn't do it if I could ride it. Maybe it wasn't that much fun. So anyway, let me thank you, the John Ben Shepherd people. The John Ben program at UTPB in Odessa has been a wonderful program. And I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes. But first, since I'm here, you probably want to hear a few words about me, although John probably elaborated a lot. But I was born on a small farm in Kentucky, raised there, like our neighbors. We didn't have a lot, but we ate good, had plenty of food, and we were happy. The most important thing my father gave me was good advice. When I left home to go to school, he said, son, work hard, be honest, be fair, be considerate. Those things may not earn you a lot of money, but they'll earn you respect and help you gain self-confidence. As you go through life, you will realize how important those things, confidence, respect, are in your life. And he's right. I've tried to do those things, my father advised me, but you'll need to ask my family, my friends, if I succeeded. Some will say yes, some will say no, but that's okay. I guess the mark of success is your family and your friends. And I have a lot of them here tonight, and that's my success. A couple of things about my life. It's not very exciting. But when I wanted to become a geologist in school. And when I was a junior, I started looking for jobs. And geologists, price of oil was down. You recognize this. Geologists were pumping gas and checking oil. So I thought, man, I don't want to go to school to do that. So I changed to economics and went on to go to work for Xerox. But in the meantime, and represented from Kentucky, we didn't have a lot to do. We worked on the farm and played basketball. And I had a chance to go to school, play basketball. When I got there, I found out a lot of those farm boys worked harder and jumped harder than I did. I remember this one kid who weighed about 6'4", weighed about 80 pounds, came dribbling down the floor, put the ball between his legs, threw his legs twice, did a 360 reverse, dumped the ball with both hands backwards. I thought, I'm out of here. I can't play this game. They're much too good for me. But you did well. You're a good guy. Anyway, that's right. I'll vote for you. Anyway, I got out of college, went with Xerox, moved 10 times, 14 years, had some interesting jobs. So when I was about 35, I was called in to the president of one of the division's office, and he said, "I'd like you to be director of training worldwide." I said, "Well, are you sure I'm the right guy you're talking to?" He said, "Yeah, we'd like to do that. We're moving fast and like to have you do it." My background was in sales and marketing. So anyway, I got into that. To this day, I don't know how many people I had working for me. I know everything we did, we translated into many languages around the world. We were working with Fuji, Xerox in Japan, and we were working with countries in Europe. And it was a fun job for a while. And anyway, I left. After 10 years, after 14 years moving 10 times, I left that. I thought I'd like to get into something. Claire and I were married. Get into something where I'm not moving every 6 to 18 months. So I came to Midland to run a company for a while. And then I bought my own company named Highbond Engineering, which I ran for 30 years. And had some interesting situations. I did several things while I was with Highbond. I'm involved with other companies. One of the companies I was involved with was a oil company producing oil in Russia. Actually, it was Siberia. We call it a Russian company. So I was asked to come on the board, and I did. And then later we decided to go public because things were going well. And so I was asked to be chairman. So I rang the bell on American Stock Exchange, which is exciting. But as we were moving to Russia, our partner, who was a nice guy, sold out to a Chechen, who wasn't a very nice guy. And so we had our first meeting in Moscow and talked about what we were going to do, and mentioned that we had a contract with this company. He said, "You don't understand. I don't care about your contract." So we thought, we'll take care of that. So our attorneys were Benson Elkins in Moscow, big tough firms. So we went to them, went to American Embassy, so we put this guy down. Next meeting, he had about 10 of his henchmen there, and he said, "You really don't understand. This is my country. You'll either do what I tell you, you might not get out of here." So we did what he told us to do, and we got out of there. The mission, we got out fast too. The mission of the John Ben Shepherd Public Leadership Institute is to provide young Texans an education to encourage leadership, ethics, and public service. We have a lot of students here tonight. These students are here because you have leadership qualities, and your teachers have instructors that picked you out. And I think you ought to be very proud, and we're proud of you. There's one in particular I've known for a few years. And you think about leadership, what can they do? Maybe it can be a judge, maybe it can be a representative, maybe it can be governor, maybe it can be vice president, maybe it can be president, maybe it can be head of the United Nations. Anyway, I want you to repeat a name after me because it kind of flows off your tongue. Can you say Carmen Dragon? Just say that, Carmen Dragon. All right, Carmen, stand up a second. I mean, look at this smile. Are we ready for something like that in politics? I tell you, Carmen, I think you're great. I've known you for several years, and thank you. Now, Carmen says she wanted to be a urologist like her dad. I said, "Carmen, you need to be president, go to the White House. The view from the East Room is much better than what your dad looks at every day." So maybe she'll take my advice. Anyway, luckily, the John Ben Shepherd program, the Speakers Institute in Odessa has some great speakers. Some of them here tonight, they've done a great job. I want to recognize them. Charles Cotton was the first one. Charles? Done a great job. He built the program the way it is. We have Bobby Burns. Bobby? Where are you? And Becky, we expect you to continue this tradition, and I know you will. I want to talk about the speakers and the John Ben Shepherd program. There's my time up. All right, I'm going to hurry this up. Sorry. And the fact that over the years we had some wonderful people. I'm going to skip a lot of them now because my time is running out. But some years ago, we noticed that a lot of the speakers would come in, fly in all day. They would go to the reception that afternoon, that evening. Then they would give their talk, and they would go back to the hotel, be taken to the hotel. I thought, oh, this is really not very good. These people, what a wealth of information and knowledge they have. So I think I asked Charles Cotton, I said, Charles, would it be all right if I asked some of these people if take them to dinner later on? He said, sure, if they want to go. So anyway, Claire and I started taking some to dinner. We had our friends go with us occasionally, but I'll mention some of the people we were with and the backgrounds they have, because I think they've helped shape the world as we know it today. We've had generals, we've had admirals, military men who have helped shape the world. But one of the interesting guys was a fellow named Scott Ritter. Scott was head of the United Nations nuclear inspection team in Iraq before the Iraqi war. There was a lot of concern about Iraq having weapons of mass destruction. So Scott was sent over to inspect that. And in his talk, he said, I didn't do very good because every building I went to that looked like it might be a warehouse, I was met by guards that said, pardon, you can't go in there. That's part of the Saddam Hussein's palace, so you can't go in. So he said, I really didn't get into many. I didn't do a very good job. But interesting enough, even after the war, he came back and said, I'm not sure they had weapons of mass destruction, so I don't know if they did or not. Another fellow we talked to, spent some time with, is a fellow named Terry Waite, who worked with the church. He was in Lebanon and captured and spent 5 years in solitary confinement. Part of the time, he was in a very small room like a closet. He was 6'7", like the representative. He said there was no way he could stretch out. He spent years in this room not being able to stretch out. Think about that. We talked to Peter Berger, who's the first man to spend time with Osama bin Laden, and wrote a book about him, tremendously interesting. Robert Baer, who was an ex-CIA agent, came in and talked. He had been the CIA agent in Iraq when Saddam Hussein was taken out. And he had some really interesting stories, and he and I became friends, and we stay in touch. He lives in Telluride. When I'm in Colorado, I'll chat with him occasionally. He's written some books about his experiences. If you want to really know what's happening in the CIA and what some of the issues, read his books. They're worth your time. And we had some interesting people. Ralph Nader came in and talked, very controversial guy. One of the people I liked was a lady named Sarah Palin, who had run vice president with John McCain. Previous to that, she'd been governor of Arkansas, and she was really charming. She could bring a crowd up and hold them together. I thought she was great. And we've had some people, Geraldo Rivera, Juan Williams, and Judge Janine, if you remember that, came in. They were interesting people. Ben Vereen, who's an actor, singer, and entertainer, gave a great talk on Black history. Jackie Joyner Kersey, who was an Olympic champion, spoke about her background and her time in the Olympics, some of the issues being a black runner that she had to deal with, but she had. Now I'm going to mention a name you might recognize, T. Boone Pickens. Most people in Texas know who that is. Well, I'll tell you a quick story about T. Boone. Not T-Bone, pardon me, T. Boone. Sorry, Boone, he's now in heaven. He died a couple months ago. Anyway, he called my company, actually he at Atmos Energy, who provides the gas to our area in West Texas, called my company about 30 years ago and said, come to Dallas, we'd like to talk to you. So I went in and they said, Boone said, I want to put a chain of compressed natural gas stations in so I can drive from my home in Amarillo to Lafayette, Louisiana on compressed natural gas. So we went through the thing, and I won't go into all the details. We put them in, and they worked well, and then it kind of went away, and I saw him some months ago before he passed away. We were talking. He said, you know, Jim, we were 30 years too soon, but I think CNG's coming back now. Anyway, what I want to mention is he and a fellow named Richard Fisher, who at that time was CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank in Dallas, came out to speak, so they shared the stage. And Mr. Fisher introduced Boone. And as he introduced him, he talked. He said, when I was told I was going to introduce Boone, it was really exciting. He said, I went home and I called my wife, who was traveling in Europe 8 hours ahead of me. Phone rings. She answered. She said, hello. I could tell I woke her up. He said, honey, I've got some really exciting news. She said, what's that? He said, in your wildest dreams, could you ever imagine that I would have the chance to introduce T. Boone Pickens? She said, honey, I'm sorry, you're not in my wildest dreams. I'm going back to sleep. And anyway, great people. We entertained 2 ex-heads of CIA, Jim Woolsey and Robert Gates. Dr. Gates had a doctorate in Soviet and Russian history. Not many people know that. And he served under 4 presidents. I met him. I thought he was a great man. He later became president of Texas A&M University. Texas people don't get upset at that. He's really a good guy. At dinner one night, I talked to Mr. Woolsey and asked him what his most interesting experience as head of the CIA. He very quickly said, well, I went into Russia on a mission so secret I could only take 1 aide with me. We went into Moscow, flew out to a small town, and I was going on in to another part of Russia in a Russian helicopter with 2 pilots. So it was my aide and me and the 2 Russian pilots. We went out. I had a meeting with some people from different countries. Came back to the helicopter, and the pilots were drunk. One of them had a bottle of vodka and waved and smiled at me. He said, I didn't have much choice. I got in the helicopter, and luckily they got me home. A couple other people, Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward, who broke open the Watergate story. When they came out, they hadn't spoken in years. They, for some reason, they were mad at each other. Probably one was getting more publicity, I'm not sure. Anyway, they came out and they did a good job talking about their past experiences. And we went to dinner and I seated them beside each other and they seemed to make up. At least they didn't have a fight during the evening. One of the 2 more people I'll talk about. One